Hi, I'm Katie Farrell. I'm an author, a registered nurse, and a mom and wife to some of the pickiest eaters on the planet. People say that eating healthy is bland and boring, but I'm here to show you a better way with wholesome, simple recipes. All of my dishes are stamped with my family's seal of approval. Think you can't eat those brownies and pasta? Think again. I'm here to share my secrets with all of you. Here's what we're cooking today on Dashing Dish. One of the most asked questions from our Dashing Dish followers is, how do you meal prep? I find that many people get overwhelmed imagining that they have to spend hours in the kitchen, but today I'm going to break it down and make it easy. Crockpot Enchilada Chili, sheet pan Greek chicken and veggies, and brownie batter overnight oats are on the menu for this week. So let's get prepping. So today we're doing a full meal prep, and a lot of times I think that people get overwhelmed when they think about meal prep because they think that they have to prepare 5 meals for 5 days a week, and it just seems really daunting. But I'm gonna break it down and show you how I meal prep, keep it really simple, and the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna prepare dinner first thing in the crock pot. And I love using my crock pot for meal prep because you really just dump everything in, you set it in the morning, and then it's ready and really hot and delicious and fresh tasting for dinner. So I'm just doing a dump kind of recipe today. You don't really have to think much about it. You just open up some cans and put it in, which I love. I'm a wife, a mom, and a business owner, so I certainly know what it means to be busy. One of my secrets to success when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle is meal planning. I like to think of meal prep as an investment that pays off in 3 ways. First, it allows me to save money at the grocery store by buying only what I need, and it prevents unused food from going to waste. Second, it saves me time during the week, not only in preparing meals, but also in doing dishes. Can I get an amen? And third, it prevents unhealthy choices that are often made when we're overly hungry. So to start, we're gonna do 2 cans of petite diced tomatoes, and you can get the big chunky tomatoes, but I like the petite ones for this recipe. And then we're gonna do 1 can of corn and 1 can of black beans. Now you could take the corn out, the beans out, make this your own, however you like. We're actually making an enchilada style chili today, so it's something that's a little bit different than just the traditional chili. And it kind of has some of the taco seasonings that you would expect from enchiladas in there. So it gives it a really nice kind of Mexican flair. So we have our beans and our corn. And then we're gonna add just 1 pound of raw chicken. And you could do frozen chicken as well. And that's what I love about crockpot recipes, is you can just pull out some frozen chicken. And not many recipes you can do that where you can just take the frozen chicken and just throw it in, but you can take just 1 pound of frozen chicken, put it right in the crock pot, and it'll be good to go. Then I have 2 cups of enchilada sauce. You could make your own, or you can just do the canned, which honestly, I just usually do the canned. If you can find organic for any kind of sauces, that's usually better, but whatever you have on hand. So 2 cans, 15-ounce cans, and all of these are 15-ounce cans of enchilada sauce. And you just dump it all in there, give it a quick stir, and then we'll do the spices. I have here 5 different spices. I have cumin, garlic powder, salt, chili powder, and paprika. And really, you can add these more or less according to your taste. There's no right or wrong here, except for with salt. I would definitely go light on the salt and then add more to taste later. But I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of each. The cumin, the garlic powder, the salt, the chili powder, and the paprika. And just because I like my chili a little bit more of a chili punch to it, I'm gonna add 1 more teaspoon of the chili powder. And then at the end, like I said, if you wanna stir it up, give it a taste when it's all cooked through, you can add more spices. But I always recommend starting a little bit lighter and then adding from there. So we just give this a stir, and then we put the top on, and that's all there is to it. You just can set it on high for 4 hours or on low for 8 hours. And then when it's done, all you have to do is take 2 forks and shred the chicken up and give it a stir. And serve it, usually I like to serve it with Greek yogurt or some shredded lettuce. Really, anything that you would serve with tacos is great on this chili. So that's dinner. It's all ready to go. And if you have leftovers, it makes wonderful leftovers, so you can eat that throughout the week. So now I'm gonna make some breakfast that really you just make in one bowl, and then you have breakfast ready to go for the rest of your week. If the thought of meal planning seems overwhelming, a great place to start is to think about your busiest time of day and plan ahead for that one single meal. Just like everything, it will eventually become a habit, and you can plan for more meals than one as it becomes a natural way of life. So now we're moving on to breakfast, and I'm making my brownie batter overnight oats. What I love about this recipe is, like I said, I just put everything into a bowl, divide it among 4 containers, and then I have breakfast ready to go to grab and go for my week. So the great thing about this too is you can have them cold straight out of the fridge, or you can microwave them for 30 to 60 seconds, and then it's more of a warm oatmeal treat. So I guess it just depends on what you like, and I also like to warm it up, especially when it's cold outside. So instead of just your regular morning bowl of oatmeal, we're gonna spruce this up with some special ingredients here that makes it taste not only fudgy and delicious, but also adds protein, which keeps you satisfied well until lunchtime. So first, I'm gonna start with just old-fashioned oats, and we have 1 cup of oats here. To add the punch of protein, we're gonna do protein powder. So this is a 1/2 cup of protein powder. You could also do peanut flour and swap it out altogether, or you could just add an additional 1/2 cup of oats if you don't want to do the protein. What I love about protein, like I said, is it really satisfies you and it keeps you full until lunchtime. So usually whenever I have anything that has whole grains, I add some protein to it as well. It's a nice balance. And then we have here a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, and that's what gives it that rich chocolatey flavor. And then whenever I do anything that's sweet, I like to add a little bit of salt to help balance the flavor. So I'm gonna do a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then I'm gonna do a 1/2 cup of stevia. And you could use coconut sugar, you could use monk fruit sweetener, you could use any kind of dry sweetener for this. And you could alter it according to your taste as well, so you could do more or less. But I do a 1/2 cup of stevia, and that seems to do the trick for me. Then I'm gonna stir all the dry ingredients together, and this is what I like to do, is I like to do any of my baked goods or anything with wet and dry ingredients. I like to mix the dry first so it's well incorporated and combined, and then add the wet after. So I have 1 cup of Greek yogurt, and that's something else that if you don't have it in your fridge, you can do applesauce. Or mashed banana. A lot of times people ask me, I can't do Greek yogurt, I can't do any kind of dairy, what should I swap it out with? Applesauce or mashed banana or even pumpkin could replace the yogurt in this recipe. So I'm gonna give that a quick stir, and then I'm gonna add our milk. So we have here 2 cups of almond milk. So almond milk is great because it's 30 calories for 1 cup versus 100 or more calories for a cup of milk. So it's less calories, it also has no sugar in it, and it gives it that same creamy consistency that you would expect from milk. Now these oats are gonna look a little bit liquidy when you stir them up, but you have to remember that oats absorb all of the moisture. So when they sit overnight in the jars in the fridge, they will absorb that moisture. And so these are overnight oats. A lot of times people tell me, I don't have time in the morning, I don't have time to sit there and make breakfast and sit down and eat. Well, the great thing about this is you make them the night before. So what I like to do is I like to, on a Sunday or a Monday, look at my week, sit down with my calendar and say, okay, I know that these days are gonna be my busy days, and then plan ahead for those days. So you can see that this is looking a little bit on the liquidy side, just like I told you to expect. And then, like I said, once the oats sit overnight, it will absorb all that moisture, and it'll be nice, and it's almost like an oatmeal consistency that you'd expect, but a lot more fudgy, a lot more chocolatey, so it's absolutely delicious. And you would want to divide it among your jars. So for this, you want to leave a little bit of space at the top because it will expand just a little bit. And then I like using mason jars because not only are they cute and fun, but also you can label them really easily, and then you can
wash them and keep reusing them. Then we have breakfast that's ready to go. And the good thing about this recipe too is it's something that's kid-friendly, and I think that most people really enjoy the flavors of brownie batter. So anybody that likes brownie batter will love this recipe, and I don't know many people that don't. So stay tuned, and I'm gonna make my Greek sheet pan chicken. When a full meal prep isn't possible, I like to make sure that I have a few basic steps prepared in advance. I wash and chop my produce, season and cook my meats, and boil and drain my pastas. This simple step often cuts my cooking time in half during a busy week. So now that dinner and breakfast are covered for the week, we're gonna make our lunch. This is a great recipe to make because all you have to do is chop up a few chicken and veggies, throw it on a sheet pan, and roast it up. I like to serve it over a bed of lettuce throughout the week, or with some cauliflower rice or whole grain rice. But you can have it just as is. It's absolutely delicious. So what I'm gonna start with is my dressing for the marinade. And you could do this the night before. And what I like to do is I like to split up the veggies and the chicken in some baggies or in some bowls, cover them and put them in the fridge. And that really allows the marinade to absorb the flavors in the veggies and the chicken. But you could also do it with 15 minutes to go if you're short on time. So to start for the marinade, I'm gonna do 1 lemon and just squeeze the lemon juice into a jar or any kind of sealed container that you can shake up. Or you could just also do a tablespoon of lemon juice, and we got a little bit of rind in there, and that's okay, it'll give it extra flavor. So we're gonna get all that lemon juice in there, and the lemon juice not only brings flavor to the veggies and chicken, but it also helps break it down with the acidity. Then I'm also gonna do a little more acid, which is balsamic vinegar. I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of balsamic. And you could use any kind of vinegar that you like for this recipe. And then I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. I like avocado oil because I know that it's coming from a pure source, which is a healthy fat of avocados. Oftentimes when people ask me about oils, they say, you know, how do we know what oils to choose if we're gonna add oil to a recipe? So for example, for a marinade or a dressing, you do need a little bit of oil in there because it helps it to not only have flavor, but not stick to the grill or the pan, whatever you're cooking it in. So I always say, think about it really with common sense. If you look at an avocado, you know that there's healthy fats in there, so avocado oil is a great choice. However, if you're looking at a vegetable oil, let's say, I always say, when's the last time you saw a greasy vegetable? Then I'm gonna add some seasonings, and you can see how simple this marinade is. It's just a ½ teaspoon of salt. I like to say a rule of thumb with salt is to do a ½ teaspoon for 1 pound of meat. And then 2 teaspoons of oregano, and that's what will give it that Greek flavor. So we have a ½ teaspoon here that I'm working with, so we did 4 of those is 2 teaspoons. And then a ½ teaspoon of garlic powder. You could also do fresh minced garlic for this recipe, which is absolutely delicious. Garlic powder is just easy and I have it on hand. So then I'm gonna seal up this jar and I'm gonna give it a good shake. Maddie likes to do this when she's in the kitchen with me. And you just wanna get it so that everything's well combined, and you can see how delicious that looks already. The great thing about this marinade as well is that you could use it for a salad dressing, and I think that oftentimes people overthink salad dressings and they think that they have to go find one that's store-bought. You can make this with just a few simple ingredients right at home. So I'm gonna set this aside, and then we'll add it to the veggies and chicken in a moment. Much like meal planning is vital to healthy living, spending quality time with God is the daily bread that nourishes our soul. In the midst of our busy lives, it may not seem like we have the time to set aside, but if we don't keep Him our first priority, we will eventually starve spiritually. One thing that has helped me is waking up early while the house is still quiet. When I seek His presence first, it brings peace and clarity all throughout my day. God's Word is alive and it's a light to guide our feet, and the time that we invest will yield a fruitful harvest, both on earth and also in eternity. I'm gonna cut up the rest of my veggies here. I have some zucchini, I have some bell pepper, and I have a red onion because I feel like those flavors go really good with the Greek marinade, but you could do any kind of veggies that you like in this recipe. So for anything that you're gonna cut on a cutting board, I always say make sure that you just have a nice sharp knife and a flat surface so that it's safe. And then a lot of times I like to cut veggies in half so that I have a good base to go from. So you can see how I cut that zucchini and then just cut it into even sized chunks. That's important so that it roasts up evenly in the oven. So for this recipe, you could either roast it in the oven or you could put it on a grill if you have a grill pan and it's nice outside. So I cut these zucchini a little bit thicker, so I cut them in half, but you could also do the rounds, just thin slices like that. You just want them to all roast up nice and evenly, so as long as you have them about the same size. With a bell pepper, what I like to do is I like to cut the top off first and always cut away from you. And then that allows you to just pull that top off and you'll have the seeds and the top all in one. And then you can just throw it away and then you can cut your bell pepper. So I'm gonna cut this down the middle just like I said before, so I have a flat surface to cut from. And then I'm gonna get my serrated knife for this. Bell pepper skin can be a little bit tough, so I like a serrated knife to cut it. And then throw all your veggies into one big bowl. And like I said, you could also just put these into a Ziploc bag to marinate in the fridge. We got our bell pepper, and then we have our onion. So for this recipe, I did 2 of every veggie. So 2 bell peppers, 2 zucchini, and then 2 onion. Cut the ends off so I have a flat surface. I'm just gonna cut it into 4s. And you can just throw the whole chunk of onion in there. And then we have our dressing here. So we're gonna give it a nice little shake. And we're gonna pour that over the veggies. And then what we'll wanna do is when we're done with this, we can give it a good stir and pour it right on the sheet pan. Next, we're gonna cut up our chicken. I buy tenderloins because it's easy to cut up. It saves you time, but chicken breasts, whole chicken breasts will work as well. And I like to get a few on the cutting board here. And since we're just baking these, roasting them up right away, I'm just gonna throw them directly into the bowl with the veggies. I just cut each tenderloin just a few times just so that it's in even sized chunks with the veggies. And this recipe is absolutely delicious. Like I said, even by itself, but you could do so much with it. And so kind of when you get to the end of your week and you're like, I need something fresh and kind of a different spin on this recipe, you can put it over a bed of lettuce with some hummus, with some feta, with some olives, anything that goes good with Greek food. We're gonna add the chicken, and this is 1 pound of chicken that I cut up. And then I have a spoon here that I could stir it with, but I like to just use my hands. It helps get everything combined, all the flavors together. And you'll notice that there wasn't a whole lot of liquid in this marinade, and the reason being is I don't want it to steam. I want this to roast up nice and crispy. So if we add too much liquid, what will happen is it will actually steam everything instead of roasting it. So we have just a little bit of liquid with a really good acid flavor to really bring out those Greek flavors. So like I said, you could let this sit in your fridge for about 15 minutes at least to help the marinade soak in, but I'm just gonna pour it directly on the sheet pan. And then you can stir it a little bit more once you actually get everything on the sheet pan. And this sheet pan is gonna be a little bit tiny, but that's okay. You wanna spread it out as much as you can. You wanna have everything as single spaced as you can there, and that'll just make sure that everything gets roasted up evenly. So as you can see, this is so simple. It took me just under 10 minutes to make, and then I'm just gonna roast it up 425 for about 30 minutes until the chicken is cooked through and the veggies look like they're to my liking. So I like them a little bit on the crisp side, so it'll be perfect when the chicken's done. So now I'm gonna go pop this in my oven and go relax, knowing that my meal prep is set for the week. One of the ways that I've made reading my Bible an enjoyable habit is through journaling. I started using a method called SOAP, which stands for Scripture, Observation, Application, and Prayer. Journaling gets me excited about spending time with God each day, and it helps me recall and apply His Word to my daily life. I also love being able to look back in my previous journal entries and recall the goodness and faithfulness of God. So now that my meals are all ready to go, all that I have to do is put them into labeled containers. I like to do individual containers so they're all ready to go throughout my busy work week. And speaking of work, I actually started meal prepping when I was in nursing school. It was a really busy time for me. I was in school, I was working, and going to clinicals. So the last thing I really had time for was thinking about my meals. So what I would do is kind of like you see here, I would just make an assembly line of meals, wrap them up, put them in some baggies, and take them with me throughout my long days. And I remember everybody marveling, how do you have time to eat healthy during nursing school? All my nursing school friends. And I just said, you know what? I just do it in 1 hour. I dirty a few dishes. You can see here we have a crock pot, a sheet pan, and 1 mixing bowl. And then I'm good to go throughout the rest of the week. And it doesn't have to be hard. You know, I just picked a few favorites, a few staples, and then just whipped them up. And now you can see I have delicious, healthy meals that will give me energy to sustain me. And that's the thing. I think that a lot of times when people think of eating healthy, they think that it really is about weight loss or being healthier, but it's also important to give us energy. So I like to have good, healthy meals in my fridge that will give me energy throughout the day. So I'm gonna ladle my chili into some individual containers, but you could also do this into a Ziploc bag and throw it in the freezer, or even half of it in the freezer if you're just cooking for a few people. But I like to use these individual containers because, like I said, I can take them with me on the go, and they're great to grab and go. I also like to use these cute chalkboard labels to put on any of my containers so I know what it is in the fridge, and you can also put the date. Usually I like to keep things for at the most 3 to 5 days in my fridge, or 3 to 6 months in the freezer. So you can see here we have a great week of breakfast, lunch, and dinner all ready to go. And if planning doesn't come natural to you, the great thing is at Dashing Dish, we have wonderful tools to help you with meal planning. Go check out these recipes and all the meal planning tools that we have at dashingdish.com.